evening, and welcome to the Fanboy Factor. Our panel, as always, is the jack of all trades, Mr. Dave Harriman.
How's it going?
Our G.I. Joe quartermaster, Mr. Mike Hopkins.
Yo.
I'm JQ, your resident Batmaniac. Our professor of comicology, Mr. Brian Isaacs, taking a night off. He'll be back next week with us. All right, guys, we have a good show planned for you all tonight. We're going to talk about the proverbial elephant in the room, Batman Inc. number 8, the Rest in Peace Death of Damian Wayne. And we're going to roll into spoilers of internet and comic book kind. And then followed by that, we're going to talk about Fanboys. So let's start with the Death of Damian Wayne. If you've been living under a rock, and you haven't been reading the paper, internet chat boards, or whatnot and so forth, or not visited your comic book store in a couple of weeks, you'll see that there's a very special cover of Batman Inc. number 8 that shows Damian Wayne with his cape foiled out. There was significance to the cover because when they did when the Batman Rest in Peace, when he had passed away from Darkseid's Omega Sanction, or so per se passed away, I want to think there was the same cover of Batman in the same pose, but I haven't found that yet, so I might have just been imagining this in my head. But going into the story, it's been brewing for a while that, everyone knows Damian's origin. If you don't, I'm going to spit it to you really quick. Damian is the illegitimate love child between Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. And when he popped in, he had a choice to make: to follow in his grandfather's footsteps and rule the world, or follow in his father's footsteps and be the next Batman to take the mantle. Damian came off very, very rough to a lot of people. People didn't like him at first. He was very arrogant. He was annoying. They didn't know what was happening, if this was true or not. And Damian's been put through the ringer. I've been reading, since Jump, and at first I didn't like him. But he grew on me. And to hear of the death and to see his progression, it saddens me because he became a likable character. And, he put Batman through the trials as well, as Batman was trying to balance him. And when he chose the path of his father, Damian did, it made Talia mad. And the one other aspect of this is that this all took place in Batman Incorporated, which is a pre-52 or pre-Flashpoint story. So if you read Batman Inc. pre-Flashpoint, you will see that this particular storyline continued and didn't get morphed by a New 52 with the exception of costume changes. So to see the Batman Inc. story come to fold and then it's going to become canon with the New 52 kind of makes me scratch my head, but that's a story for another day. We'll hit on that later. Damian Wayne has been put against all odds here. He's been kept in the Batcave under seclusion to not go out because in about, I think it was Batman Inc. number 4 or 5. I can't think of what issue it was, but he was targeted and supposedly was shot in the head. But he survived. He didn't get shot in the head. It was one of those ruses by Batman to say, yeah, he passed away, but he didn't. And he to the cave for his protection. Well, the riots of Leviathan and Talia and all that stuff was going through, and Damian couldn't stand by idle anymore, and he went through with it and burst out of the cave, guns ablazing, figuratively speaking, to help out. He gets put up against one of the Ubus, and if you don't know who the Ubus are the henchmen or the bodyguards of the Al Ghul family. There's always one close by Ra's and always one close by Talia. Well, this particular Ubu that's by Talia's side is a massive, almost Bane-like Ubu, and another nod to, I guess, the movies come into play in the comics is that this particular Ubu was that big. He had a mask, a metal mask, almost like the Jason Todd's Gatman mask. It was just metallic with the red visor, and it was almost Batman-esque. Well, the secret of this Ubu comes out in the battle between this Ubu and Damian, and he does Damian's little, his little tick thing you see him do when he's not impressed with something. It turns out that we all know that Damian has been cloned. Talia has many clones of Damian readily available to take a mantle if something should happen. Well, this particular super clone of Damian reveals himself by saying, "Okay, brother," and basically Damian goes out fighting. We all thought he'd be like a little pansy, but no, he goes out fighting. When I say fighting, he took arrows. He was snapped by the back. Another homage to a Batman story. Big old hulking Bane like creature fighting a Bat family member. And then to end all be all, after taking all those arrows, taking the punches, being thrown across the room, he gets run through by a sword. And at that point, you see Batman rushing to Damian's aid. Again, Batman was not there in time to save one of his Robins. And the same thing with Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson tried to run to his aid as well. He as well was too late. And the one interesting thing was, this whole time, Talia has been cold stone, cold as ice, not caring, trying to prove her point, take over the world. And then we see her in a panel falling over with her hand over her head. And the Ubu that was next to her says, "Are you okay, mistress?" And she says, "Nothing. I'm okay. A temporary moment of weakness." So, everyone was thinking that this Damian, was the clone Damian. This had been the real Damian for Talia to fall down like that. So there's a lot going on there. I know I skipped around and abridged a lot, but I do want to give my other members a moment to put their 2 cents in. But the biggest question is this the end of Damian? Are we seeing a new Robin? So let's chime in with Dave, see what he says about this.
I don't think we'll see a new Robin anytime soon. I think it'd be really too early to push one on that quickly. I mean, reading the story myself, I kind of found the whole death of Damian a little anticlimactic. The battle was good, but the whole book in and of itself, I thought it wasn't hyped very well enough. I mean, you saw the storylines come across on the news media, but beyond that, DC didn't really hype the death as anything significant. And again, a little anticlimactic. Talia's reaction was one thing. And I think the follow-up story, for what they got planned for Batman kind of going out of control is what the focus they're going for right now. Again, I'm not a big Batman fan, but I don't read a lot of the books. Like you said, Jason, with the continuity being all kind of screwball-y, the question is this now canon or not? And, we've had it happen just way too much with the deaths of Robins. I don't know, an overused tactic in my opinion. Mike, what do you think?
Well, they said Morrison is actually leaving Batman Incorporated, so he will no longer be writing it, and I kind of think the rumor mill saying now is that they're going to go with a female Robin eventually. But I haven't been happy with the last 2 story arcs. I didn't like the way the Joker ended, and now they're killing off Damian, and what just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's almost like they're trying to, I don't know, they're trying to do something to a storyline, to the Batman series. The thing that comes across my mind is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It hasn't been broken. Everybody's buying the books. Everybody's, into the books. Why now are they trying to change it when it's doing so well? I don't get it. I don't understand what DC's thinking by killing off another Robin, by,
Well,
who knows what they're doing.
Let me jump in. I'm going to take the Brian Isaacs route on this one real quick and just say it's Grant Morrison. And Brian told me in one of our talks is Grant Morrison's allowed to play with his toys where everybody else in the DC universe is not. For some reason, Grant Morrison gets that privilege to be able to play God with his creations. And Damian is his creation. I mean, he popped up in his story arcs. And in regards to what Dave was saying, it's solicited in the next couple previews that there's going to be a Batman and Red Robin, Batman and Red Hood, Batman and Batgirl. It's not going to be called Batman and Robin for a couple books. They're going to go cycle through the family, Batman and Nightwing. It's going to be like all these different side guests. And what I'm looking at is how long until they find this new character. I think one of those internet places did a top 10 choices of the next possible Robin. I think 6 out of the 4 choices were in fact female. And I think what we're looking at here is a possible, with the rise in population of the Dark Knight Returns DVD, are they looking for a Carrie Kelly type return? Could this be the return of Stephanie Brown? Could this be? There's so many avenues. Could this be the return of Cassie Kane? Now that Batman Inc. is now current canon in the New 52, Cassie Kane is the Black Bat of Japan. So does that bring her back to Gotham? I mean, there's so much that we can play with this here, and with Morrison leaving, who knows?
Well, Jason, who was the recent girl that was helping Batman in the sewer systems?
Her name was Harper. Her name was Harper Rowe, and they made a big emphasis on her in a couple books ago, and she was the top pick in this online poll about who it could possibly be. And I think me and Brian both talked about this as well, and it looks like they put about her. I mean, the only way I can see her really being the next Robin is if he does like a Jason Todd type of thing where he brings her in, is very secretive with her, makes her train. I mean, it's almost too good to think they're going to do that. I think what they're going to do is, I mean, people have been screaming for Stephanie Brown to come back. And I'm almost thinking that's probably what's going to happen.
Sometimes they just need to leave well enough alone. And that's, I understand people are screaming for this and that, but if the books are still doing well, why mess with it?
Oh, I agree, man. I mean, Damian I like Damian. In fact, I mean, he's getting his own figure coming out soon. I mean, the push for Damian has been really big. I don't get it. And like I said, the only way I can explain it the way it makes sense is Brian put it very well, is that Grant Morrison gets to play God with his people. So, I mean, will we see him come back? We all know in comics death is infinite. I mean, you can come back 5 times and not think of it twice. But I don't know, Dave. What are you going to chime in with?
Well, I was just going to say that is it, again, a comic book company doing something for shock value just for the sake of shock value?
Yeah, I mean, it was a ploy. I mean, it will segue into our next topic, which basically talks about, the spoilers. Why did CNN or New York Times find the need to have to post this a day before the book releases? I mean, people were, the whole RIP was solicited, but, we look at RIP covers and go, okay, it's not going to be what we think it's going to be, and we brush it aside. But then when CNN and the New York Times posted this story, it got people talking. Hey, I didn't read this book yet. Why are you posting this right now? And I went to my shop the next day, and sure enough, we were sold out of Batman Inc. #8. And I asked a buddy of mine in Florida if he had any about his shop, and sure enough, his shop was sold out. So, I mean, it does, I mean, this is where we talk about spoilers. Are spoilers, I mean, are they a ploy by the companies to get people to go look at it? Yes. It's a good ploy, but it pisses off the fans. I mean, same thing goes with movies. I mean, remember back in the day when you heard a movie was being made, and that's all you heard about until the trailer came out? Now, once the movie's made, we follow it on the internet from start to finish, and there's nothing left unturned. I mean, the people say, oh, look at Iron Man 3. I know how it's going to end now. Well, how do we know? Well, because of the toys. We can assume that, through spoilers and through trends, that Ultron's going to make some sort of cameo in Iron Man 3. But does that ruin the movie for you? Does that ruin the thing for you? Did that ruin Batman Inc. #8 knowing that what I read? No, I still read it to see how it came about. See, to me, spoilers don't bother me that much, but I can see where they bother other people. I mean, that's my take on it. I don't mind reading a spoiler because it's not going to ruin the flow of my day if I know the outcome. I want to still read it or see it. I love when people tell me about movies. Oh, did you see this movie? No, I didn't see Django. I haven't seen Django yet, but yet, people talk about it. So I know what the premise, I know how it ended, but I still want to go see it. Go ahead, Dave.
The thing is, though, with spoilers and stuff, especially for me, for movie-wise, I can appreciate the spoilers because it makes you either decide to go see the movie or not go see the movie. With movie tickets being, $14 a pop, and then, you add popcorn and soda. By the time you're done, you're spending $60 a movie, And you want to make sure that if you're going to spend $60 at the movie, that it's going to be worth spending the $60. So for movie wise, yeah, I mean, I've been watching the Superman Man of Steel trailers, um, and reading the spoilers and stuff like that, and everything that I've seen so far has made me want to go see the movie. Whereas before I saw all that, I was very cautious and was like, well, maybe I should wait for this one on DVD because it could be another Return of Superman. So in the end, sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. With what you were saying about Ultron, what's Ultron got to do with coming into Iron Man 3, and then I
It's a
thought,
segue to Avengers 2.
but I thought Thanos was supposed to be the bad guy for Avengers 2 because they showed him at the end of the movie. So I mean, if they're it's I don't know, it's the whole, we could go on another subject. It's the whole premise of adding more than one bad guy into a movie. Do you really need it?
I mean, we've seen it. It works very rarely, and it tends to, in some sense, it takes away from the movie because there's so much going on. And gone are the days were of simple times when you had one main baddie and it made everything work. But I mean, when we type on the web forums and Facebook, and every Saturday people go, "Hey man, don't talk about Young Justice. I haven't seen it yet." It's like, well, if I just saw it, I'm like, man, that was a cool episode. People go, oh man, spoilers. All I said was a cool episode. I mean, I didn't say anything else about it. I mean, people get real touchy about it, or hey, put spoilers on top of your post if you're going to talk about it. Well, it's like, you're not going to stop people from talking about it. People are going to talk about it. People are going to write about it. People are going to take pictures of things. It's a vicious cycle that now we live in a media of now. Everything happens now. I mean, and you could revert back to that Spaceballs scene where, now, we're looking at now. And everything happens. And it can be tweeted, it can be blogged, it can be Facebooked, it can be Instagrammed at a moment's notice. I mean, and that's why, back in the day, the 5 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news, you had to wait all day unless it was something very major, to see news. Now, you get your news 24/7. Same thing goes with comics. Same thing goes with movies. Same things go with music. When a band breaks up before they do. So I mean, it's just the way it is. Someone's handler or someone's assistant or someone who works here or talks to there or someone's valet hears this and they start tweeting it and it becomes a rumor and the rumor becomes truth, and it's like there is no in this anything anymore because you're going to hear about it in some way, shape, or form, whether you like it or not.
Well, that's like with Dave and I. I mean, a perfect example is when we were sitting in McFarland, and we're talking to the girl who's talking to us, and she won't tell us anything. But then some dude that works for them stands over there and goes, "Hey, did you guys see this? Hey, this is coming out for San Diego Comic-Con." And we're standing there like, wow, it takes one person to open their mouth for everybody to find out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just right place, right time, or who gets it first. I mean, everyone's trying to scoop everybody else, and it's one of those things where, like I said, no one's ever going to win. You're going to hear it in some way. And like I said, if you listen to our show, we talk about things that are current. Sometimes we talk about things that happened a little while ago, but we try to keep a good mix. And talking about the death of Damian, it happened Wednesday. And if you haven't read your books by now, we apologize. But still, it's been out there. I mean, it's been out there. It was out on the Tuesday or Monday before the book released. It was already spoiled for everybody. And if you chose not to read it, more power to you. Me, I had to read it. I wanted to see what had everyone's pennies in the bunch. And to me, like Dave and Mike said, it was very, very anticlimactic. Yes, he went out a hero. He didn't go out like a little punk. And people perceived Damian to be a punk. And I thought he really grew into that hero role. I enjoyed those, like Batman 666. I enjoyed that issue where they showed Damian as Batman. Instead of a cape, he had a flowing trench coat. It was cool. He was cold-blooded like Jason Todd, but he was, cared about the children like Batman did. So it was one of those things where I enjoyed as he grew up and progressed. But the spoilers didn't bother me at all.
Well, but you know what? Today is the day, now is the day of the internet. And, like you said, everybody's trying to scoop everybody. And, we no longer live in a surprise environment because of the internet. And it's sad because, you know what? Sometimes you like something to be a surprise to you rather than hearing about it, off of 20 different websites.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like Jason said, with me, you can talk about, I can hear about an ending or a spoiler, and still I'll read a book or I'll go see a movie because I enjoy the entire story. Knowing the ending ahead of time doesn't bother me very much, and sometimes, like Mike said, it may make me change my mind about spending a ton of money to see it. It may wait for later for a movie to come out on DVD versus going to the theater to see something. But again, I'm looking for the good story, start to finish, not just the ending. But as far as spoilers are concerned, though, at the same time, I think our biggest issue we face is that it's oversaturated. Like Jason said, it's a 24/7 information world these days. It's not as simple as saying DC announces Damian's going to die. We had to hear it, from 60 different venues, and every little bit of information they could find was posted. It couldn't just be a small blurb, issue 8, Damian dies, and left at that. Nobody got details, like everybody said, before the book was even released. It took all the story out of it, not just the ending, but everything. And that's what I don't enjoy. I enjoy reading a story, and the fact the oversaturation of information we get now kind of kills the story, too, because we're not just getting the ending. We're getting the entire story of movies and books before they're even out. So, honestly, it's almost a waste to buy the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, entire scripts get released every day. Like, for example, someone messed up and got that Turtle script released, and that's how they realized what was going to happen. I mean, it was a good thing it got leaked out because now they forced them to change it because, Jesus, can you imagine if that Turtles happened the way they say it's going to happen? I mean, it'd be a travesty. I mean, so that's where you could say sometimes spoilers help. But, I mean, it's one of those things.
Isn't that what focus groups are for?
I mean, yeah, but Bay's not going to listen to a focus group. It took people wanting to boycott Bay, period, to change that thing.
Well, they kind of went through the same thing with G.I. Joe because, you guys remember, G.I. Joe was supposed to be out last June.
That's a really good one.
They can sit there and swear up and down the only reason they did it was for 3D purposes. And I can tell you right now, just by the extra scenes they've added, that they added more Channing Tatum to the movie.
Yeah, I mean, the original spoiler was that Duke died in the first 10 minutes. How can you have G.I. Joe without Duke?
Exactly.
It's like, I mean, I know I say this analogy, and I know I'm wrong about it, but it's like having Transformers without Optimus Prime. Yes, we had the Generation 2. I understand that, but the poster child for Transformers is Optimus. I don't care what anybody says.
I have to disagree with you there on that one, Jason, because when they did Rodimus Prime and they did that series that ran like right at I can't think off the top of my head who the good guy was. It was another Prime though. It wasn't bad at all, and they got
Optimus
away
Primal?
from. Yeah, they got no, not Optimus Primal. Before then was one of the movies, and Megatron was redone and rebuilt
as Galvatron
by and made into Galvatron. So, it can work. It's how you do it.
But still, the presence of it's the same thing with go to the comics. Dick Grayson took over the mantle of Batman for how long? A year maybe. Bucky took over the mantle of Cat for how long? And then they go back to their people. Steve Rogers is Cat. Bruce Wayne is Batman. I mean, it's one of those things where Optimus Prime is the face, from my opinion. But a spoiler was made that Transformers 4 was not going to have Optimus in it because no one's buying Optimus Prime toys, so they had to make a new Transformer as the lead to sell toys. So it's like you hear all this stuff, and it's like all through the spoiler net. I mean, Toy Fair is a fact. Is not Toy Fair a spoiler? I mean, you get to see what's coming out before it comes out.
Yes.
But that's a good spoiler.
Yeah.
That's a good spoiler.
Some,
But I mean,
sometimes. Yeah,
how,
sometimes.
how do you walk the line? Good spoiler, bad spoiler. I mean, that's the question. I guess we can try to answer, but we're probably not going to be able to.
You can't. I mean, you really can't because, it's all in personal preference. Do you like spoilers? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Well, let's talk about the growing trend of the fanboy. We did rebrand our show the Fanboy Factor, but let's talk about what we think a fanboy is. Now,
Josh Miller.
yeah, Miller. And I was trying to say that one as a trump card, but yes, Josh Miller would be the ultimate Marvel fanboy. And he can counteract me being the ultimate DC fanboy, but I like everything. I am a fanboy of the genre. My definition of a fanboy is having passion for what you enjoy of this. There's Star Wars fanboys, there's Batman fanboys, there's Superman fanboys, there's a fanboy for everything you can imagine. The way I see it is, when we have a movie, for example, The Dark Knight Rises, everyone's up in arms. Oh, that was the crappiest thing. That was so wrong. Blah, 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 blah. But if you were able to pick it apart, and I try defending this all the time, I always get bombarded by Marvelites who say I'm just silly DC man. But if you break it down, and if you ever read a graphic novel by some writer, it's their take on that character. The Dark Knight trilogy has been dubbed is Christopher Nolan's live graphic novel. His take on Batman. At no way, shape, or form did he say, this is how Batman will be because I am Jesus Christ. No. He said, this is how I want Batman to write. This is how I took it. And that's how you have to look at it. That's his version of Batman. And I think it worked. I enjoyed it. Even though the million Lord of the Rings endings later, it was still okay in my opinion.
Well,
now,
here's my Marvel side of that thing. Okay? I'll give you a Marvel side to that. Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, and then the new Amazing Spider-Man movie. The same story, two very different takes on it. And they're both good.
They both worked, except for Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it was a crock of shit.
Correct. They both work. Now, here's in my honest opinion, my problem with Christopher Nolan, The Dark Knight Returns, has nothing to do with about being Batman. I have issues with his plot story and the story itself. It's nothing to do with it being about Batman, though. But I digress. But like you said, Fanboy's right there. People argue a lot about, this movie was better because it's this. This movie was better because it's this, because it's Marvel, because it's DC, because they're passionate about it. Very few of us are out there, this group in particular, we love the fact that these movies are being made, period. I don't care if it is Batman, The Flash, Spider-Man, the Hulk, the Avengers. I am happy to see that comic book movies now have gained such a strong foothold in mainstream media because it means we're going to get more.
Exactly.
But in the same thread, I'm scared to death. Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm afraid, is it going to come off too hokey and kill a lot of momentum that we have going?
I mean, and that's the thing.
That's my fanboy take.
You don't know, and that's the gamble with these, because you look at the Marvel movies, and I'll talk about Marvel movies all day because I enjoy them. The Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire was all right. The Spider-Man 3, not so much. The X-Men movies was all right. X-Men Origins Wolverine, in the beginning was okay, in the end it got, it was kind of crappy. First Class, amazing. It wasn't the First Class, but it was amazing. Amazing Spider-Man. I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. I can go all day with the Marvel movies, but then you go to Ghost Rider. Thumbs down for me. And blame it on Nick Cage, but I just think the movie was put together poorly in general. Daredevil. People laugh at that one. I actually don't mind Daredevil. I actually thought Daredevil worked. It was to me it was besides Affleck's cheesy acting in it, it was still a decent movie. Dolph Lundgren Punisher. It was the 80s. What are you going to do? The new Punisher with Thomas Jane was not bad. The Warzone movie, that was pretty freaking cool. But I mean, then you go to DC side. Not that many home runs, but still, it's being made and they're trying. Now DC has more animated fanboys that enjoy, the Bruce Timm style. And you look at what's going on with now them canceling Young Justice and series. These two shows are on the verge of, they're on this huge plateau right now that they can go anywhere with it, but they're going to cancel them for the Japan animation style Teen Titans. That's not what people want. People are. I mean, I am so intrigued. When I saw the Book of the Black, spoiler alert. When I saw the Book of the Black on Scar's shelf, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. And they have the opportunity to divulge into that whole Blackest Night. I mean, and we haven't even seen a Sinestro Corpse ring yet, but it's there. We know it's there. Everyone's waiting for it to happen, but they're not going to be able to get to it because I think there's 6 episodes left before the season ends, maybe 5. People complain a lot about movies, how they're made. I tell everyone this. When you get $2 million of your own money or $2 billion of your own money, you want to start your own studio, you can hire whoever the hell you want to do it and how you want it to be done, and it'll be done the way you want because it's your money. These studios are controlled by the bigwigs. Warner Brother is controlled, by, DC is controlled by Warner Brothers, and they have their suits that go, I want to see this. I want to see it happen like this. I'm sure when Superman Returns came out, there was someone who goes, I want to see it happen like this, and it was forced to be done that way. Same thing with Wolverine Origins. There was someone who was pulling the strings there who said, all right, let's take Deadpool, a popular character, let's cover his mouth up so he doesn't talk, and let's make him some weird Baraka Mortal Kombat looking thing that can teleport. And someone goes, brilliant, you're writing my paycheck, all right. But all the fans are going, what the heck?
Yeah, but if you take, guys know that show comes on Friday nights, Boss Undercover.
Yeah, Undercover Boss, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they need to do with Time Warner and Disney. Send them undercover to be at Marvel, to be at DC, and see what it's really about, and see what the fans really feel. Instead of just sitting there going, we need to save money here, let's cut this episode, let's cut this show, and we'll save our money there, and we'll make them Japanimation that we've already got filmed tons of, and, we'll save a few bucks and people will watch it just because we say they will. They don't give us fans enough credit as to what we enjoy and what we like.
But here's another part without that, and this goes back to, we've talked about this before, like one of my favorite shows that got canceled a while back, Stargate Universe. Okay?
Nobody cares about
it. It got medium ratings. It didn't get bad ratings, but it didn't get great. It didn't get the Stargate Atlantis or the original Stargate, SG-1 ratings, but it got medium-sized ratings. And that made them unhappy. To them, the show cost too much to make, only get medium-sized ratings. So they pull it and put other shows on, like Alphas. And Alphas did horrible. It has not done that well in ratings. They haven't even touched Stargate Universe. But it's cheaper to make, so they've kept it around. With this, the same thing. We have good stories, great stories that are enjoyed by not only kids, but by adults because they're good stories. It's a good comic book story put on the screen. It's not crap thrown up there. But because it's not pulling these home run ratings that these executives want, we're not getting the shows to stay around. So, unfortunately, this is where the fanboys need to step up. If you truly love it, shout loud, show your fanboyness.
Right. I mean, there are times when you should stand up and be that fanboy that says, hey, this is what we want to see, man. We don't want to see. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I sit down on the couch with my kids and we turn on Cartoon Network and, and I know a lot of people like this stuff, but to me, it's blasphemy to cartoons. It's not, the animation's crap. I mean, you talk about regular show and Adventure Time, I guess I can take because it's sort of funny sometimes. But to me, regular show and like Squidbillies, and it's just watching crap animation, and it just draws the kids in, like the Annoying Orange. I told my kids, we ain't watching this crap no more. because we're supporting our TV being on this channel is supporting this crap. And I said, in the meantime, good shows like Young Justice and Greenland are being taken off because of the cost of making. I mean, to me, the cost of making it should be accepted because hey, you have people buying at the cable companies to get these shows. They're gonna buy your DVDs. They're gonna buy this. They're gonna buy that if you keep making this show the way it is. But you're gonna take it off, and its hype of popularity. I mean, it's like, oh, it wasn't selling toys, so we have to go back to the little Tokidoki Teen Titans because they're gonna sell toys. I mean, you want to sell more toys? Lower your prices. That's the toy fanboy talking to me. You want to sell more toys? Drop your prices down. $19 for a Marvel Legend or a DC Universe is horseshit. Sorry, I know I'm cursing. I'm sorry, but that's my fanboy passion coming out. When I have to go when I go through our comic shop and we're looking through the previews and hey, it's $22.50 cost to buy this thing, but if you go to Walmart it's $18. Like, do I save $3 and try to hunt at Walmart or spend the extra $3 and get it at my comic shop? And that's where you go on these toy pages and people go, well, I don't want to spend $23 for it. Well, that's how much the comic store has it on price for because we got it right there. I can guarantee you it's going to be at my comic shop, but you know what? I can't guarantee the stock boy at Walmart's not going to scalp it for himself.
And on that same note, and I hate to say this, this is against DC, is that the quality of Mattel characters that DC has produced sucks for the price that they charge us. The price they charge for so little, I can't even name the term, the movability.
Articulation.
Thank you. Of the figures. They're charging as much as Marvel Legends are from Hasbro, but the Hasbro figures have so much more to them. As far as weapons and movability, posability,
and
things
this
you
is
can do.
I'm going to counter you, Dave. I'm going to counter you because see, as a fanboy, I don't mind the character array we've gotten. I mean, there's a couple here and there. I'm like, why? Like, the whole Superpowers line, with Golden Pharaoh and Cyclotron. Like, those, to me, yeah, those were cool when I was growing up. But, there are other characters that need to be made. But within the subscription that we have out, I have enjoyed every single figure that's come out. I mean, and that's just me talking. Even Marvel Legends-wise, there's been some cool Marvel Legends. But sometimes that articulation they have, I've heard of so many figures now, Marvel and DC, Hasbro and Mattel both, breaking because, people are trying to move these things in certain ways and the joints are stuck or the joints are too loose and so on. So there's quality control on both ends of the spectrum. You can't just say...
great.
But yet we're getting charged more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the thing is Mattel is charging from DC's end more than what the Marvel characters cost. So we're getting less of a product for a higher price.
But
so they want to, at least, go ahead.
You can argue that too, but Marvel's putting out basically two waves in one. You have a whole wave of regular figures, and then each figure has a variant figure that you have to collect in the same wave. So in a sense, the Marvel figures cost more than DC figures. Because if you're a true fan, you want to get both She-Hulks. You want to get the Punisher and the Blade. Where's this Moonstar been hearing all about? There's all these figures that, how long we see FF Spider-Man out, and he was the variant, per se, and then Big Time Spidey all of a sudden is a mystery and gets flooded throughout the mixture. Now you can't find FF Spidey to save your life.
Exactly.
I don't disagree, but that's if you want to collect every figure, and like me, I do. I do want to get every figure that comes out. I hunt for those variants, and I don't have a problem hunting for those variants. I want to see them as well. But then you have the not digital subscription, the Mattel's subscriptions they have.
Yeah, the DC Infinite Universe.
Right. For like $39 for each figure you get. There's an exclusive figure they're not going to put out a regular because they figure no people don't want it. So we're going to charge you a much higher price just from them. There's no hunting for this. You had to join the year before and pay monthly or sometimes bi-monthly for a $40 figure each time.
Well, you look at that. That was the deluxe figures, and you look at that. The deluxe figures were all build-a-figure size. So think about a normal build-a-figure. You bought 5 to 7 figures at $16 a piece to build one figure. So you're at plus $100 already to build a figure. So to offer me an exclusive figure through the subscription service for $30 as opposed to $120, I'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And the same thing with the club exclusive. Metron, that chair was so awesome that it was worth the $30 in itself.
But
And then you look at this next one, Monsieur Mala and the Brain. I mean, you're getting a Build-A-Figure size figure with another character. You're getting 2 for 1. So I mean, look at Platinum. I mean, it's just, you can go on and on about the price mark, but it just, because as opposed to being $100, it was $30.
But how can you say it's exclusive when you can go on Maddie's website when the figure is released and buy it without doing a subscription?
But they're not always going to be there.
No, not
that's the thing.
always.
You roll that dice. I mean, people that wanted Poison Ivy, you were SOL because that's sold out. And if same thing goes for the other ones. I mean, some stuck around because they weren't popular quote unquote characters that people wanted. I mean, I think you can still buy a Fan Stranger right now on there.
No, they're sold out now.
Oh, they're sold out too? I mean,
yeah.
That's the thing. It's just, the first run people didn't know, but they've gotten better at telling you who's coming. I mean, this whole year, I think we're waiting on the release of one more named figure for this whole next year. And everyone's kicking us in the ass going, man, I should have bought the sub this year. And I'm like, that's why I said I couldn't say no to it.
But again, it comes down to what everybody and their mothers are talking about is, you pick and choose what do you collect now. So because money's been so tight for everybody. So is it worth it to invest, what you're investing a year in these figures compared to taking your chances of getting a figure? Because, now you have the choice of buying all of them, or you can pick and choose which one you want. So it's hard. I mean, we kind of went off the topic because, we're supposed to be talking about fanboys, and as a fanboy, how do you pick what you collect and what you don't collect?
Well, that's just going to show, we do have a little bit of fanboy in us as much as we don't like to think we do. Jason's very, very strong about his DC stuff, about his, DC collectibles. I'm very strong about my Marvel. When it comes to Marvel, I'm definitely probably a fanboy. When it comes to other lines, Valiant. There's rumors of Valiant figures coming out. I'm a huge fanboy if you'll see that hits. And so we got to be passionate for the things we love. But it doesn't mean at least we're fanboys that we can curb it to where we also find love in other areas myself. Like I love the Square Equinox Batmans myself. But
what do you consider a fanboy? I mean, let me ask you this, Jason. What was the first Batman episode or comic book you ever read?
It was Detective Comics. I want to say it was an early one, like 200, something like that, of like the first run. I mean, like very, very early on. It was my grandfather's that I read.
And do you have any idea who wrote it?
I couldn't tell you. In fact, it's at my grandmother's house. I wasn't allowed to take it with me. That's how old it is. So I mean, it's one of those things where, if I can, I'll look it up. But all I know is I read it, and then how old was I? It was 1980 something when I read it. I can't think of the number might be off too. But it was a Detective Comics cover. And then a couple years later, the movie came out, and my grandfather took me to the movie. And I mean, I always said, all my friends were Superman. Oh, I want to be Superman. Oh, I want to be Spider-Man. Oh, I want to be this. And I always liked superheroes. I always liked, hey, I could fly, I could do this. But Batman to me was a normal dude doing the right thing by the people, and that to me is what got me into it. And then then it was the Dark Times, and it was the death of this and the death of, and like I said, I read the X-Men too. I was always the X-Men reader. I mean, I loved the X-Men.
But you consider yourself a fan per se.
Yeah,
Whereas, you
I
know,
won't. I don't walk the line. I don't. I do side with DC more because of the fact that it's been more current. It's been more consecutive for me, whereas Marvel's been all over the place. I mean, I've had to reread different stories in Marvel more than I can count, which is why I stopped reading Marvel for a while.
well, it's not even the fact of who, if you're DC or Marvel. It's more, I can remember a particular fight we had with a Marvel person that will remain nameless, and no, it's not Josh Miller. Um, that was saying he read Superman, and I was like, okay, well, how much Superman did you read? Well, I read a few. Okay, well, which ones? I'm just saying I read a few. Okay, but you're saying you're a huge Marvel fan. Well, why are you a Marvel fan? Well, I've read some. Okay, well, why? Oh, I don't know. I just read them. Well, dude, seriously, how can you call yourself a fanboy if your last recollection of X-Men or X-Force was, Rob Liefeld's funky feet drawings, or the
I mean,
steroid dude?
I mean, it's you can we can argue this all day. I mean, it's you said at the end of the day, it's about what you are drawn to, whether it's a writer. Like for example, our friend, Stacy, she's a fan of good stories and writers. But somebody might be a fan of an artist. Somebody might love Jim Lee's work and read everything that Jim Lee draws because they love looking at his artwork. Some people might want to read everything that Ed Brubaker writes because they love how he writes. You know, I gotta tell you, I've looked up all of Fred Van Lent's stuff since we talked to him, and I've enjoyed everything Fred Van Lent's written. Which is why, on top of the excitement of G.I. Jane 1's, why I picked it up is I became a fan of our friend Fred Van Lent because of reading all of his past stuff. But it's you can pick and choose.
Of course you can pick and choose. I mean, but in the end, if you're a fan of a certain title, in my opinion, you should be able to tell me, you know, where you read your first, like you. I just asked you, what was your first Batman book? Number issue in the 200. That's a good ways away back. A lot of these people can say, oh, well, I read, in the 90s. I read in the 90s. I don't consider myself a comic book fan. I consider myself a comic book reader. If I was a fan, I would know the books from the 80s, the 70s, and some of the other stuff because it's history. A lot of these people that wrote in those times are the reason why you have the Rob Liefelds, you have the Grant Morrisons, the Scott Snyders, and these people that are there now these days. And if you can't tell me something about a past character and how they originated, then how can you call yourself a fan?
And I agree 100%, Mike, with that statement. And you don't have to necessarily go back and read the stories, but do your homework. I mean, if they're for example, you know, talk about the Blackest Night prophecy. Abin Sur has talked about the Blackest Night prophecy long before I ever read Green Lantern. And when I picked it up, I was like, what is this? So I went back and researched it and found out that this has always been something that's been in the Green Lantern universe, always been in there, but never put the focus. And Jeff Johns took it and ran with it and made it into focus. And, Jeff Johns, he's been writing Green Lantern for 10 years now. And you got to think about the tenure he's put in there. He's built it up and said, hey, let's talk about it now. And as his last hurrah, he talked about the Spectrum and, now he's done with it. It's one of those things where if you do your homework, you can always put together a valid point. I think the biggest, what was the fight we had in the Make My Marvel group a couple of weeks ago with the Spider-Man powers? Are they powers or abilities? I laugh at that one because they are one and the same, in my opinion. And I read enough Spider-Man to know, will I call myself a Spider-Man expert? No. Am I knowledgeable? Yes. I've read enough Spider-Man and engulfed myself with, besides the movies, to say I know enough about the universe to say I could talk about it.
Well, my biggest thing was the biggest thing in the Spider-Man universe. With great powers come great responsibilities. It's been said over and over and over again. That was proof enough that Spider-Man had powers.
Exactly. I mean, whether it be an ability or a power, it's all relative. It's all the same. If you can jump 5 buildings across a 5 buildings away, that is the ability to jump far, but it is a power at the same point. You have the power to jump far as well. You can
Well,
argue
there
the
you go.
term.
There you go. That's the definition of a fanboy. Someone who believes their opinion is correct based on a character off of only a few readings of the comic book versus doing their research.
Exactly. And that was my big, and they said, well, what is the biggest issue with Superman, blah, blah, blah. And Josh Miller's biggest thing was he's afraid of green rocks. Okay, well, why is he afraid of a green rock? Because it saps his power. So, is Spider-Man scared of anything? Well, if you read in the 90s, Mr. Miller, then you would know that Spider-Man was scared of his that Venom knew who he was from the get-go, and he was afraid that Venom was going to go after his family
Yeah,
because he knew he was Peter Parker.
that's been Spider-Man's biggest weakness is that he's afraid of losing his family. That's why he keeps his mask on.
Or even better than that. Actually, Spider-Man says, there's one comic book in particular that points this out. Spider-Man points out he's always afraid to use his full strength because he's afraid of hurting someone, regardless of whether they're a hero or a villain. In the one-shot comic book, Spider-Man versus Wolverine, they were going at it in the cemetery. And Wolverine, Spider-Man thought Wolverine was sneaking up on it. And he turned around because he was finally pissed off enough and realized the only way to stop Wolverine was to hit him full force. When he turned around and threw his punch, he hit Ned Leeds instead and killed him. Now, Ned was doing it on purpose because he wanted to die.
But that goes back in where, Spider-Man's biggest thing was with he kept himself in check. So then Superman. Superman has to keep himself in check because if Superman would ever go full force, there wouldn't be a DC universe. Superman could decimate, the DC universe with one breath. But because he keeps himself in check, that's one of his crutches as well. Every character has their fatal flaw. Every character has their crutch. And it's okay to like character. It's okay to dislike a character. But at least have knowledge to back up why. To say, oh, because he sucks is not a valid answer. And you will lose the argument every time. These versus threads that we see all the time. If it's in Make My Marvel or it's in DC Unlimited or if it's in a regular page, Wolverine versus Nightwing. Well, that's not a fair fight. But if you're on a Marvel page, it's going to be Wolverine. If you're on a DC page, it's going to be Nightwing. But in a sense, that's not a fair fight. Iron Man versus Batman. All right, well, if you take the man out of the suits, that's a fair fight. But you put Iron Man in a suit, Iron Man's got the tactical advantage because it's a suit of armor.
Let's complicate it even further. And this is not even due to the fans. If you read comic books for long enough over the years, especially through reboots and reimaginings and retelling of origins, how many characters have we heard a retelling of the origin where it gets tweaked a little or changed slightly? You find there was something else behind the scenes you didn't know about, done over and over again. And Spider-Man's a great example. His explanation of his powers has changed over the years.
Oh, yeah.
How he hits the walls has been, remodified. So the problem is people try to stay with that, this is why it's a power and ability, or this is why you have that power. Well, yeah, but that was the explanation 5 years ago. 10 years ago it was this.
And that was that particular writer's explanation. Every writer will have a different take on it. When it's like Batman used guns when he first came about. People don't want to believe that, but yes, when he first showed up, he had 2 holsters in his side pocket. But then, they say, wait a second, his parents are killed by guns. Let's take the guns away. All right, now he's anti-gun, but yet every one of his vehicles has a gun on it or a missile, which is kind of funny in a sense. But yes, I just bashed Batman a little bit, but it's just, to me, it's funny. But it's, if you follow your character or follow your genre, Image, DC, Marvel, Boom, whatever, do your homework. If you want to be a fanboy, Be a proper fanboy. Don't say because I'm this age, I'm X years old, I couldn't read that far back. No. There's so much out there where you can get in the bridge version of a collection. You can look up something online. I mean, Comic Vine will help you out with that. There's resources out there where you can catch up on a storyline or catch up on a character and say, you know what, I'm going to start reading about this character. I'll tell you how I picked up Spider-Man.
That's, you're no different than a bandwagon fan from, because the Ravens won this year, you're a fan for them next year because you think they're going to win it again. It's no different. Either you're a fan of your team through the thick and thin, or you're not a fan. I mean, it's a band. I consider it a bandwagon fan. If you can't tell me how Spider-Man originated his powers, or when, or you can't tell me why you think Spider-Man's better than Superman. It has nothing to do with that green pebble. It has to do with who, if you look at every character, they have some sort of humanity towards them. Like Jason just said, Superman could blow the world up with his powers, but he doesn't because he's showing his human side. Same thing with Spider-Man, his strength. He could be stronger than anybody, but he doesn't use it because he doesn't want to hurt people. It's his human side coming through. We see this in all superheroes. They have some sort of weakness to them towards humanity.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, we can go all day with this, but looking at the time clock in the corner, I think it's about time to start wrapping this up. But not to say the final word, but like I said, love what you read what you love, but occasionally branch out, read something different.
Well, I have to step up and give Miller some props, because when I recommended a book to him, Revival, which we're hoping to have one of those guys on our show soon, he actually picked it up and read it and actually liked it. And so even though he's a Marvel
Miller.
Yeah, well, but even though he's a Marvel fan, you got to give him his props because he is reaching beyond just Marvel. Because sometimes it just takes one of us, DC boys or Image boys or whatever, to reach out and say, hey dude, if you pick it up and read it, you'll like it. Sometimes go outside your box sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then, I'm sure everybody's comic shop has dollar bin. Go into a dollar bin, grab a couple dollar books, and you might like something and you might pick it up and want to start reading it again. And I know with today's economy it's hard, but do your homework. And I'm sure Brian will appreciate us saying this. Do your research, look up what you're going to talk about before you open your mouth on a forum or type it up or whatnot on a blog. Do your homework. Don't make yourself look like an ass. Know what you're talking about before you talk about it. And that's all. That's all we're going to say about that. I mean, it's all we really can say. So with that being said, it's time to go. For Mike, Dave, Brian, myself, have a good night.